you can see the holes and stuff, but it's even the fairways were crap. I tell you what, earlier this year. I tell you what, though, the rough was very thick, small but thick, but it doesn't hold a ball. No.
So your ball sinks down, and I can't hit a ball in the rough.
That's when you pick it up and set it up.
It won't hold it. I tried.
Put a tee in.
Good evening. Welcome to the September 26, 2018 Board of Directors meeting for Celebration Residential Owners Association. We'll start with owners' comments. I see that 1.5 people have listed themselves. Well, one has listed and one has said maybe, so that's the half. Cindy Swisher, would you like to speak, please?
Hi, Cindy Swisher, 1204 Downey Place. During the last election, there was much talk about the board's fiduciary responsibility to the homeowners. Part of this definition includes the board must obtain and consider all the relevant facts and circumstances, identify the various options available, and carefully weigh which course of action would be in the best interest of the association and its membership as a whole. The agenda overview in the board packet concerning action item number 4, revisiting the newspaper versus magazine, says in part that at the budget meeting on September 10th, a discussion of the magazine versus newspaper with regard to budget was presented. A majority of the board indicated they would be in favor of the magazine. Frankly, I found this decision a bit puzzling considering the information the board had to work with. Fact, our residents clearly prefer the newspaper format. This was suggested by the results of an informal survey posted on social media. The newspaper got 280 votes. The board's official survey confirmed this result. 450 residents, or 55%, want to keep the newspaper. An additional 29% could go either way, with only 16.5% opting for the magazine. Fact, historically, the Celebration News creates revenue for the association. The magazine will cost us money. If you look at the analysis provided to the board dated May 2018, it shows the projected cost of the magazine in 2019 to be $27,000 compared to revenue of just over $5,000. But to me, this is not quite apples to apples. I would suggest using an average of the revenue data for 2016 and 17, where we had a dedicated person on staff generating sales, rather than the $20,000 per month that revenue is currently running with basically no support. The pro forma revenue for 2019 would then become $321,000. The newspaper's net income would increase to $26,614, even with the revised expenses. If you also use this number for the magazine, costs reduced by about $1,000. But either way you look at it, we're losing the income and adding additional expense to our budget, costing us between $32,000 and $50,000 for something that our residents don't seem to want. One of our board members has said that he didn't move here because of the newspaper. Well, I too am a founding member. I also have a brick, and I didn't move here because of the newspaper either. However, after living here 15 consecutive years, I think I probably have a pretty good feel for what makes up the heart and soul of Celebration, as well as the traditions that have evolved over time. I also understand that the decisions the board makes are not as cut and dry as they may seem. It is in this spirit that I respectfully ask that during your discussion and before the final vote is cast, the board explain why they believe this change is necessary and in our best interest when it will end up costing us money and the residents clearly prefer the newspaper. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Cindy. And Doy Moyer was a maybe.
It's a sure thing now.
Well, that's a yes.
I mean, her desire to speak was a maybe.
I'm a little scared, but I'm just going to throw it out there. I don't have any prepared speech or anything, but and you know, I have friends about the magazine both ways. I consider Cindy and Tim friends. I consider other people friends. So both sides. I hear both sides. Some want it, some love the idea, and so forth. I don't have a dog in the fight. However, I try to do some research to determine, do people read magazines more or newspapers? Are newspapers declining reading? Yes. Are magazines being read more? Yes. And one of the things it says is that on magazines and so on and so forth is that you should talk, who is your target group? You know, and basically it says target audiences generate repeat memorable impressions to potential customers. And I just thought that kind of put it in a nutshell of what magazines are. And I just think, too, that some of the things that Cindy said, I really don't know, in fact, if all that is true or not true. Or I think there's been a lot of confusion for all of us. And I thought maybe when you get to the discussion tonight, you could clarify that just a little bit more for those of us who, you know, might be interested in moving on to something new, and that people might read more, since it seems to be that more magazines are printed by 3 times the newspapers and so on and so forth. So again, I'm just saying it out there. I'm not saying that she's right or wrong. I don't know. I just would like it to be, some of the clarifications just made a little clearer. Thank you.
Great, thank you. This is the owner's comment period. Just a reminder, as we did at the last meeting, this is the time for owner's comments, so if there's any comments later, those are not permitted later. Eileen, if you want to come up. So this is the time for owner's comments. We have owner's comments with the board and interactive with the board. We did that at a town hall meeting a week or so ago. We do that at workshops regularly as we discuss items tonight. Once we finish owner's comments, then that is finished for the night. Thank you, Eileen.
Yeah, Eileen Barr, 1138 Mosaic Drive. And I do have the privilege of working with Dory on the Special Events Committee. And I feel that we do have a dog in the fight compared to, considering what Dory said, because, you know, I was told that I had a personal comment, say it now, not when I get to give this special events report. Now I'm going to give a special events report, and there's a lot of great special events coming up. Well, we need people to know about them. So I think we need to pick, magazine or newspaper, the one that will most reach people and make them come out and make them be aware that all these special events are going on. And that's basically all I have to say.
Great, thank you, Eileen. Anyone else before we move on with the agenda? Okay, Steve, can we verify that the meeting has been properly noticed?
Yes, it was.
And can we verify quorum?
Yes, you do.
Great, let's have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I'll now formally call the meeting to order. Have a motion to adopt the agenda.
Motion to adopt.
Thank you, Debbie.
Second.
Thank you, Jack. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. Approval of the minutes. We have 2 workshops and 1 board meeting minutes. Have a motion to approve those?
I'll make a motion to approve them.
Thank you, Vaughn.
Second.
Second from Debbie. Any discussion? Okay. Call the question. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, all passed unanimously. Committee report. Shall we start with ARC? Please. We need you? Good evening. Oh, good evening. Good evening. We need you.
That's not what some people say.
That's called bad lip reading, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, very bad lip reading.
Michael Valaket, Chairman of the ARC Committee. For the record, summary of September's meeting. We had 127 applications throughout the month that were reviewed by the ARC in August. 120 were approved and 7 were declined. The ARC requests in August were primarily landscape design and planning 18, painting exterior 13, and security devices 12. We've seen a lot of security lately. The ARC approved the modifications to the shutter ordinance covenant, decorative and storm design. You'll be receiving those soon, next month. And that's it. Basically, if any residents have any questions about ARC or anything related to ARC application process, please take it to Covenants in the back, and they'll be happy to help you here at Town Hall. Questions to the committee chair?
A question, having read your report, and I saw the notice of shutters, And then hearing the report, you're talking about hurricane shutters, that was part of that?
Not part of that, and
that's
the
part of
actual
it.
decorative shutters with the little S things that hold them
Right,
closed, and the
right.
hinges, and how they
But
look.
it's both, it's all kinds of
It's all
stuff.
kinds.
Okay, thank you.
All
I'm
kinds.
glad that that is being addressed.
Right, and I think we've pretty much finished it. It's being prepared by staff, and you'll have it on your packet next month.
Marvelous, thank you so much.
Anything else?
Anyone else? Thank you, very efficient.
Thanks for needing me.
Always. You may stay, you're welcome to.
need to go home.
Other people need him too. We can't take all of
I'm
them.
not going to say anything else on camera. Covenants.
Good evening, Stephen Fromfelder, Chairman of the Covenants Committee. This is an update of the September meeting that we had in August. Approximately 976 inspections and re-inspections were conducted of single-family and service area homes. This included the inspection, our first inspection of Spring Lake area. 36 resale and follow-up inspections were conducted. 85 new and completed ARC projects were reviewed. 150 emails were sent for minor items, and approximately 56 letters were sent for major items or multiple minor items. 19 properties were reviewed at the monthly August meeting. 13 proposed fines were rejected, and 5 proposed fines were tabled, and 1 proposed fine was confirmed by the committee. Again, just a friendly reminder that Halloween is just around the corner, so please, we ask that all of the homeowners please clean your sidewalks so that they're not slippery with all the mold and mildew that we've had growing. There's some areas that are very slick, and we need to have those cleaned up before we have all of our friendly little visitors show up. The inspectors continue to drive through the community and conduct their routine inspections approximately every 6 weeks. We have reference materials in the NEV with them to assist our homeowners. The community standards team is always ready to work with every single one of our homeowners and with you here at Town Hall. So if you get a notice, be it email or letter, we encourage you to contact the team here at Town Hall, and they will definitely try to help. And communication, again, is the key. We just like to have a plan of action if we find something that we'd like to work towards, again, working together. Thank you for everybody and their hard work of keeping celebration looking beautiful. Subject to your questions, that's all I have.
Questions? No. Jackson, you look like you're ready to make a question.
No.
Oh. Questions, Brian? Anyone? Vaughn? No.
Nope.
Vaughn, I just wanted to let you know I'm brickless also.
Oh, you're brickless?
Yes,
Do you have any missions coming up in the future?
not at this time.
Army colonel, so I...
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Dog Park.
I think our dog park committee chairperson and part of our committee will be presenting at the workshop on Monday. What we have prepared and been working over the past 6 months are rules and regulations. For the contract that people will sign, we will have rules and regulations for the park itself and some backup plans if that doesn't meet your standards. We also will have a violation form for those people who are violating the rules, perhaps passing their cards on, letting people in that's not supposed to be, running around barefoot, having your children in the park and you're not there, you're in your car on your phone, which happens all the time. So we want to make sure that we keep it safe, because as we agree as a committee that it's a fine line, we teeter-totter on the fence basically to make sure that people abide by the rules so that we keep everybody, dogs safe and people safe, which I think is a great thing. We also are doing a huge kickoff for fundraising. We're going to do some heavy lifting fundraising and hopefully put towards the lighting at the park. And I think that's about it. Oh, and yes, and shade, which we'll have to put in through the overall task force that you put together for unless we can come up with the funding. And if people will buy towels and those bricks, we could probably do both, because we already have raised the funds for the lights themselves, pretty close, depending on which ones we have. Installation is rather hefty price, but Shade is also definitely one of the other ones who have said that. And I think that's where we are, and Monday we'll be there in full force. Yes.
If we may, could we just get a copy of your presentation, even if it's Friday afternoon? We look
Well,
at it
I
on the
wasn't
weekend.
planning on presenting. I'm
the
on the
materials?
chair.
The materials are gonna be in the board packet for Monday. They come out tomorrow, usually on Thursdays you get it.
Thank you.
So they'll have that.
Okay.
That's not something
They'll
that,
have everything that y'all have worked on with Nikki.
okay,
So question, you mentioned a violations form.
yes,
Is there, part of that include consequences?
yes.
Okay, so that's a reporting form and then a process protocol, what happens if someone?
Sort of like a 4 or 5 step process.
Okay.
For violation 1, here's what the results could be.
Okay.
2, 3. So we have 3, and then.
That you're proposing.
And they also could, one more thing that's, I think, is really important to think about. I'm not sure if this is coming up, but it would be great to think about, is that we decided instead of, I think, the $10 fee, is it $10 that they pay? Maybe a $15 new card for just the park. So therefore, that would coincide with the violation. So we had talked to Patrick, and that there's a possibility, because those cards are good for all the parks, so it's difficult to just remove that access to that park. But if somebody's in violation and such an effect that 30 days suspension from the park, and it's not, and in the legal part of it, it's really not the person, but it's the dog that will be not permitted to return for 30 days if it's a dog. But if it's a parent that's allowing their children in, then they will be in violation, so.
The dog better get its act together.
I want to make sure Rachel got all of that.
All right, we can cover this Monday.
We'll cover that Monday, thank
Well,
you.
on the legal aspect that we
Great.
received, it was confusing, but it said both things, so.
So thank you for all, and thank the committee for all the work you're doing. It's a lot of work.
It is.
This amenity's been open just over a year. It's a work in progress. It's a great amenity, and I'm glad that there's been some good work on this.
Just a quick clarification. In your minutes, your meeting minutes, it says under the cleanup dog signage that the committee anonymously approved 6 signs. Do you mean unanimously? Or was it anonymous?
Yeah.
Was there controversy over this?
I don't know, let me see.
It's like Batman.
I like the wording on the cleanup signs, the way they put that in their minutes too.
And just keep in mind too, that there's like 6 different songs that we could go with and that have to be approved, so they were going with number 1, and then we're gonna go down the list, whichever one you all find that you want.
Well, you're making a recommendation, I hope.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I always say, even on our shade structure, we have, I said, this, you have to send it in this way. What's your first choice, your second choice, or
good.
third? But make sure we like them all, so that if they pick 3, we'll still be happy. So that's what we
But
do.
we really, I think the point with the committees is we really rely on all of your detailed work. You know, we're looking to use, you've done all the hard work.
Well, and also you were learning too, and, you know, even working with Todd, who came into our meeting and sat for an hour, we had him, which was really, really helpful, on the shade structure. And because we said, you know, if there's certain types that, you know,
Right.
will not be approved from level 1.
Right.
So we decided we'll send them all in, and they can say, okay, no, it's going 3. That's the only thing, that's your only choice.
Okay.
And he sort of helped us pick which ones might be approved, so that we don't, so we can, you know, not have to come back 3 months in a row with
Good.
each one.
Okay. Anyone else? Please.
I was out of town for the whole past week, but I had a chance to go in another state, go buy some dog parks. This is a Cadillac
It is.
operation here. This, compared to these ones I've seen, this, I'm glad we spent the money. I mean, I don't mind spending money when it makes the town look better, and boy, that place is amazing compared to what I've
That's good
seen.
perspective.
Really
So another
something.
state, huh?
And
Great
even
job,
when we
great.
had Posh Pooch, people would come up to us and say, if you don't have a dog park, I'm not moving here. You know, they want one close by. And this, again, everybody who worked on it really, I agree with you. I think it is. And that's why it's so important that we have these rules, we have the notices, and then we are able to enforce them, because we want to keep everybody safe.
Yep.
Good. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Would you
Recre-
like me to stay here?
Are you
Recreation.
recreation?
I don't do I don't do
Maybe
anything
it could
else
be a
but go
maybe
to
here,
these
too.
meetings.
It's not a few committees.
Recreation or no?
Yes, recreation, I can do recreation.
Okay.
We met this past week, and it's a great group, and we have a new member who is involved, or was involved with Wide World of Sports and the Disney Marathon. So as we move forward, it was very nice to hear that she, says that when the corridor opens and so on and so forth, that it'll be, used a lot, and we have to, be careful. So that's one of the things we're going to work on, and Jackson was there too, and we talked a lot about going forward, setting up some sort of protocol for that, which is going to take a long, long time. And if the board wants us to help with that, this group I think is a great group, and I'm sure more people would want to be involved in that. But I think that everybody sort of understands where we're going, and Jackson, was great in giving us the insight. At our last meeting, basically, we want to update on the fall season of sports leagues. And what we're trying to do now is our next meeting will take all those that have come up for renewal, because this is the first time we have ever done this, where each year, each group has to go through a process, and it's like about a 5-step process. If we find that these groups are doing everything that they say, they have the coaches are doing background checks and so on and so forth, we may move them through. If we feel that they're not living up to the high standards that we have requested, that we may let it do an RFP. But if not, we're just going to move them through to the next year. And it looks like most of them will just be moved through, which is really great, so we'll be able to work on other things. And then we just talked on upcoming recreation programs, and then always possibly new programs. And if anybody ever has anything from where you've lived before and you have a program that you would like to introduce, come and talk to us about it, because we're always looking for new ideas, new teachers, new instruction, and also try to branch out into more of the arts and other than just the softball and kickball and soccer and so on. And that's all I have, if anybody has any questions.
Okay.
Steve, you were telling me a little bit about the accreditation process, because I think what the Recreation Committee is doing is incredibly helpful. The depth of work, the process, the ability to take these big assets. I mean, we're bringing a $4.5 million asset online and treating that with the appropriate care so that it's used wisely. It's a big deal. And I was surprised to hear that there's a whole set of accreditation procedures, but we're actually ahead of that curve and doing that. Is that a correct?
The CROA board and this, what started as a task force and has turned into a committee, the recreation group, should be commended for taking a real hard look at what is considered a fundamental best practice through the National Recreation Parks Association. If you go to get your accreditation, you cannot even be considered if you don't meet the fundamental standards, and this is a fundamental standard. And when they designed the recreation program plan, they utilized the standards and best practices within that to build this plan. So we should be confident as a community that we're offering the highest level of program that we can in this community. And it's working well, I think. So
I think
it's been
so
a couple of years now.
Thanks.
Okay.
We have Eileen for events.
Yes, I'm only doing this to give Dory a break. Okay. Special events. It's time for everybody to go into the garage and into their closet, because on October 6th, we are having the porch and yard sale. In other communities, you'd go into your basements, but I don't think we have basements here. But everybody has to remember that residents have to register in order to get on the map and to be listed by October 1st if they wish to participate. On October 12th, the October Food Truck Friday, will be moving to Lakeside Park. We did this in the spring. It was a huge success, and it will probably remain there until coming spring. Everybody is invited to check into the Hotel Transylvania on October 12th. For those who haven't seen it, this is an absolutely wonderful animated movie, very funny and very entertaining. And it will be the feature on the Great Lawn, October 12th, beginning at 7:15 p.m. And you will think so fondly of vampires after this wonderful movie that One Blood will be coming on October 15th for a blood drive. The blood drive is going to be held here at I didn't write that one. I have to thank JR. I imported a little bit.
Someone's blushing off camera.
Are they going in the arm, or are they going to come in the...
You'll learn after seeing the movie.
The particulars, October 15th, Town Hall from 9:30 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. I used to work for many years as a volunteer in a blood donor center. It's vitally important. On October 20th, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., we are going to be having the Fall Fest. This will start, we will be showing, have a performance by Off Kilter. Now, we have a committee member who tells me that Off Kilter is so popular that they actually have a set of groupies who will come around, and they have to pay if they don't if they don't live in Celebration, will drive around to listen to any Off Kilter performance. So I expect them to be there. In addition, we're going to have Squawk the Bird Show, pumpkin decorating, a costume contest, and more for this wonderful event. Again, that's Saturday, October 20th. That's at here, or, and that will be at Lakeside. Please remember to buy your tickets for the Founders Day picnic. You have to buy them about a week in advance. Deadline for purchase tickets is November 2nd, and the picnic itself is October 10th. So
November.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we're in November now. Okay, let me repeat that. The deadline to purchase tickets for the picnic is November 10th for the November 2nd for the November 10th outdoor picnic. Okay. And once again, we are having the Four Rivers Barbecue, and it's going to be a totally catered lunch. It'll be fabulous. And they are now on sale either online or at Town Hall. And speaking of Founders Weekend, all residents are invited to come out and enjoy the festivities. On Friday, November 9th, there will be a family fun fest complete with rides and food trucks from 5 to 8 p.m. and our concert featuring 9-time CMA Musician of the Year, Mac Manali, at 7:30 p.m. On Saturday, November 10th, the day kicks off at 10 a.m. with our parade through town. Then at 11 a.m. is our veteran ceremony at Founders Park, and of course, November 10th will be the picnic at Lakeside at 1 p.m., and we will also have our annual photograph. I understand there are people who have never missed a photograph. We also have several other upcoming events that should be circled on your calendar. Movies on the Great Lawn on November 17th and December 1st. Holiday Fest featuring plenty of frozen fun on December 1st, again, the day of the movie. And don't forget the Stars and Promises Holiday Concert on December 5th. There are still a very limited number of VIP tables remaining, though everybody is invited to the event. There will be chairs put out, or bring your own chairs. The Special Event Committee would also like to thank Steve and the Lifestyles Department and the board for working with our committee this year to listening to our interest and our concerns about the upcoming budget. Again, the 2019 budget, which we think is really an excellent budget. And a special shout out to Debbie McDonald, who is our liaison, and to Kevin Kirby, who came to our last meeting.
Don't
and
throw
also,
me into this.
we would like both of you to come again, and all other board members, because I think it really gives you an idea of how these events get to this piece of paper.
I appreciate that.
Thank
Wait,
you.
when Eileen, Squawk the
sorry.
Bird, what is that?
I'm sorry?
Squawk the Bird, I gotta
Yeah,
ask
you know what? I actually sent a message. I'm going to let JR. I think Squawk the Bird has been with us for many years.
It's a bird show, Jack.
Something like at Disney that they used to have, no longer have this.
We had them here last year. I mean, they'll climb things, jump through hoops, they'll ride little stuff, and so.
Natural
Spoiler, now we don't have
Natural
to.
now you have to go.
activities, right?
Say ho.
Sounds great.
Have to be there to believe it, huh?
I've heard that it's really excellent. I've unfortunately am inevitably away for that particular event, so I haven't seen it, but I'm hoping to make it soon.
But it's not because of the bird.
It has nothing, no, I really want to, but that's inevitably, we have a vacation or something's happening. Anything else?
Thank you, Eileen. Appreciate all that you're doing and all the good planning for 2019. Artisan Park is our last one. No report? Okay. Liaison report.
Oh, actually, I can
You want to say
update
something?
just
Okay.
a couple of things.
Yep.
Artisan Park is working on a couple of things. They've just updated and painted and repaired the clubhouse, and they are in the process of doing a redesign of the furniture in the clubhouse and the restaurant area. And it's actually been an interesting process because they've involved the community. They've generated a series of different proposals, presented those through the task force process, and then brought it up to the Artisan Park Committee. So it's kind of cool to see how that's all come together and how that property has gone from being a money-losing property to a break-even and now actually generating some revenue. So there's a lot of good stuff happening there.
Good.
Dave?
Thank you. Yeah, please.
In line with the committee reports, were we going to talk about it all with the community about establishing a technology committee? Oh,
Go
I
ahead.
am.
Go ahead.
Oh.
We're talking about that on Monday at the workshop.
Yeah, there's a lot of technology questions that are coming up about Wi-Fi and, geez, what else? Cable.
5G.
Yeah, all kinds of things coming up, and one of our cornerstones of the community is technology, and we don't have a committee. I don't know if we've ever had one for technology or not. Maybe one of the brick holders would know if we've had a...
We scratched in stone.
Back when you had chisels and hammers. But anyway, we're looking to establish a technology committee in order to move Celebration ahead in the technology department, to get some insight into maybe some future things that we should be doing here. And we're looking for some experts in the field. We really need experts in the field to sit on that committee. So if anyone out there is interested, maybe we could make this call for those people to contact Town Hall and let them know, and maybe we can see what we can come up with and get this moving.
So the general concept is we'll talk about this. We have about 10 minutes on our agenda on Monday to talk about it, to look at what a mission or what the objectives might be. With the informal conversations, I think it's fair to say the board seems to like it, but we will vet that on Monday and then formally approve it and then make a formal call for members once we know what the scope is, and then looking for some specialists who want to get involved. So it'll be a great opportunity. And so that, should that get approved, that would be another committee report that will be coming. Liaison report, so that's anything with CDD, Jack, that you'd like to report on? That you want to report on?
The only issue is something that Dory mentioned at the CDD meeting, and I mentioned previously, is the whole-scale redesign of Celebration Avenue. Yeah. And I would like to get that out there, and we'll talk about it on Monday.
And we're also talking about that at our workshop on Monday, because CDD has moved forward with a lot of that with Celebration Avenue. Were you going to say something?
No, I just remembered what Jack and I were talking about at the last board workshop, and it was this.
Okay.
Okay. Ready for financial overview?
Sure. I'll do a big picture overview. We've spent a lot of time on the budget in the last few weeks. We had an all-day session on September 10th. We had one earlier this week. For 2019 budget, we're actually in good shape. Expect to roll it out to the community next Friday, October 5th. Late board meeting in October 24th, I think it is where we had hoped to adopt it, so everything is moving forward well there. From a financial perspective, gross revenues were over budget by about $26,000, going strong at a little over $4 million, on our way to about $6 million for the year. Transfers to reserves are right on budget. We are over expenses by about $48,000, which really I talked about this last month, relates to Davy and a lot of problem invoices and stuff like that. We actually had a meeting right before this meeting, executive session. About 151,000 of invoices that are going to be booked in September. We already have an agreement on substantial credits against that from Davy. We're moving forward with other actions to try to just settle and get a compromise worked out, and we'll just keep you apprised on that one. But basically a holdover from actions that occurred last year with landscape. So that's the big expense item there. From a cash perspective, we've got operating cash of almost $1.4 million, which we ended last year with about $1 million. You're always over during the interim months because you get a lot of assessments that come in on the first of a quarter and then earn themselves out over the 3 months. So I expect that year end will be at a number close, or at the end of the third quarter too, close to that $1 million. If you look at reserve funds plus that, we've got $5.4 million of reserve funds and about $6.8 million in cash. So from a cash perspective, we're quite strong. If you bounce down to the next page, Steve, we'll talk more about this when we go through the investments and stuff like that. But if you look at our reserves, again, replacement reserves are for fixing things up that exist and everything. We got $1.1 million. We expect to end the year with $1.1 million, $1.2 million. Capital improvement fund, we got $2.5 million. We'll be spending $1.67 million in the fourth quarter for the athletic fields. As was mentioned earlier, they're actively underway. We expect, though, Steve will talk about it more, but you know, we're looking at a live date, hopefully middle, late March, early April. $4.5 million is the big picture number, and we're still talking with the county about reimbursement for a couple $1 million. Contingency in the year about $500,000 and surplus of $1.3 million. So we're in strong shape there. So not a whole lot of new news, and again, we'll get the budget package out end of next week and talk about it more at the October board meeting. Any questions?
And a lot of details would be on the prior board meetings that were all streamed.
Yep, thank you.
Hours and hours of detailed budget work if you want to look at it. Next item, any board questions? Okay, thank you. Next item is management report. Steve?
I will start with the athletic fields since Brian ended with the athletic fields. The athletic fields, we did have our groundbreaking ceremony on September 12th. And if you get an opportunity to go out there, it's right behind the CDD building on the Civic Corridor, where the library is the first and the dog park CDD building. And then the open lane, you can see the construction for the road is underway. And then the Lot D, which is the former golf course property, is also now CROA's property. And we have a agenda item here tonight to have that cleared also. And then you can see the complete clearing now of the athletic field complex. So when you're driving in there, you can see where the parking lot, the concession restroom building, and then the 3 fields are going to be laid out. We have on our website now some pictures of the groundbreaking ceremony, also some aerial views of what that facility is going to look like as it's being cleared out. So it's really kind of neat to go on there and take a look at what it looks like as they move through with this site work and clearing of the property. There was one small area that was a wetland. The wetland mitigation has gone through. They got the approval last week from the Army Corps of Engineers, so that has been cleared out. I don't believe it's been filled yet, unless it was filled today. I didn't see it, but when I went out there earlier this week, it was still, it was being cleared and still being filled. Once the site work's done, though, and the clearing's done, you'll start to see the construction taking place. So we're looking at about a 6-month time frame for the completion of the entire project there, which would put us on par of having an opening around April of 2019. So as of right now, everything's moving along as scheduled. We do have a couple change orders that will be coming forward. One is tonight, and then one I had to pull because the calculation needs to be reconfigured. And we can talk a little bit more about that when we get to that agenda item. Yes, sir.
During the Recreation Committee meeting, the question came up, is the plan to actually open all 3 fields simultaneously, or will it be a staged completion and rollout?
We'd like to open all 3 at the same time, and we'd love to have an opening ceremony where we could have actual scheduled league play that day. So after we cut a ribbon and get everybody out there, and just have all the leagues and the fields fully moving. So I imagine in the spring you'll see full lacrosse, youth lacrosse leagues taking place, boys and girls, and then boys and girls youth soccer at that time frame.
And a parallel to that, would the concession building open, with restrooms open at the same
Yes,
time?
it's-
Everything all at once?
Everything's on schedule
Yeah.
to be open at the same time.
Because it'd be hard to have a ball game there with no concession stand open, no
Restrooms,
restrooms
everything,
open.
yes.
Yeah. Good.
The next item I have is on Friday at 10 o'clock, we have invited the condo associations, their management, their board members, anybody from the condos that would like to come. We're just going to have a quick charrettes, just a conversation about Comcast, and then some options that the condos can look at moving forward here if Comcast isn't their choice, or even if it is their choice, how we can try and overcome some of the challenges that we're dealing with trying to get Comcast infrastructure into those condo associations. So that will be Friday at 10 o'clock in this room here.
I also have a concern with Comcast that there's still just homeowners, residents who get complete BS or almost lies from Comcast, even still as regards the fiber and everything. I mean, those are blunt words, I realize, but we've got a Comcast problem. It's just, if they really do what they say they're gonna do in January, we're gonna have a disaster because they're not prepared.
Well, and I would encourage homeowners to come and speak with Jennifer Ketchum, who's your customer account representative for individual homeowners. She's here on site. I think her next date is October, do you remember, 19th, I believe it is. And she sits in room 105, so homeowners have direct access to her. And then there's also a 1-800 number that homeowners can call that is supposed to be a direct line for Celebration residents. It's going to be more geared towards the individual homeowner questions that you're referring to. Meeting on Fridays for us to discuss some of the problems and challenges we have with the condo associations.
Is there any way we can send out an email to residents and just state this? And here, I guess I have two concerns. I want to make sure residents are really getting the emails, because I've heard that concern before. But it would be good to tell them, she's going to be here that day. If you don't have fiber, if you don't know if you have fiber, we need to be figuring this out. I'd like to figure out how big the problem is. And I think at least we can say in January, we tried to be proactive in September and October and that.
Sure.
Brian, to tag on that, does Jennifer set the schedule, or how does that work when she comes in?
She's required to come once a month.
Who schedules it?
She does. She
Okay.
sends it to us and tells us.
Could we give her maybe some of our meeting dates or food truck Fridays or things that residents are already going to kind of make it easier for the resident to get into contact with Comcast and ask those questions?
Or if we could get Comcast to tell us how many homes have fiber according to their records. I mean, we
do both.
We need, this is a maybe not a good situation happening in front of us.
No.
Yeah. Just to come back to the condos, just a quick update for the community. We had the meeting with Comcast. They had 6 or 7 representatives, including some pretty high-level, some pretty high-level people who came in, and they made some pretty big promises about what they do and how they do it, and how responsive they'd be, and their ability to work with ARC and do a whole series of things. To my knowledge at this point, there have been perhaps 2 or 3 phone calls to individual condo managers, but not every condo management has heard from them. They have not replied to my emails or phone calls. I don't know if they've replied to Steve's attempts to get to them. And I gotta just say that this is, it's not a good situation, as Brian says, and it's not, it affects the condos. It's gonna affect people in the condos potentially after 1st of January. It's affecting the quality of services here in the community for individual homeowners. And it's disappointing that Comcast has taken such a lackadaisical response to the concerns that I think people legitimately have. So our purpose in this meeting on Friday is to, again, bring the condo managers and boards together to try and create an ongoing opportunity for dialogue with CROA and with management. But the reality is that none of us have the ability to force Comcast to come to the table with us. So we're going to offer some suggestions and some alternatives, some of which may be better than others, but I want to diminish expectations, because ultimately we don't control any of this. It's Comcast, and if they won't do anything, if they won't reply or respond, I don't know what we do.
And I can tell you, when I asked Jennifer when she's here how many people she has, and it's never more than 3 or 4 that come see her a day. So it's in the Friday Flash. It's been in the Friday Flash since Comcast started this construction project. But I can talk to JR about doing something on the side separately to just remind people that if you're having any issues, single-family homes should be a completely different issue than what the condo associations are working with.
So can you clarify, just for the listeners, January 1st, what is happening?
If you,
I mean, we all know.
Yeah, but let me take you back a little bit further.
Right.
Comcast has always been the only cable service provider in this community. They were renting lines from Smart City, older copper lines that they were running off of. They came in and they did an investment, and again, they didn't need CROA's permission to do this. They wanted to come into the community and do a investment in a fiber infrastructure. CROA took advantage of trying to work with them so that we could get some courtesy Wi-Fi services, some internet services, and some cable services at a couple of locations. So that is part of the process that's taking place right now. If you have Comcast on the old lines that's being run on those old Smart City lines, they are going to contact you and they're going to put a fiber line to your house. So you should have that done to your house to continue having Comcast services. If you do not have Comcast and you want to purchase Comcast, it's your option to do so. You would contact them and they would install fiber lines to your house. If you do not want to use Comcast, you don't have to. You can go with cutting the cord and just doing internet options, which I've heard some people doing. You can go with a satellite dish, but there are no other cable providers that wanted to come into Celebration and do a fiber overlayer infrastructure here. So all of the fiber lines are done through utility easements, and they, quite honestly, they don't need a homeowner association's permission to come in and do that. So,
and just to clarify, in January, the agreement, the current agreement between Comcast and Smart City is due to expire. Now, that doesn't mean that it couldn't be renewed or modified, or that someone else, another company might come in and basically rent those copper pipes to bring their data through. But it also means there's a very real possibility that on January 1st or 2nd or 3rd, you'll wake up if you've got Comcast coming through your Smart City line into your condo, and there won't be any TV.
Right.
And I think the condos and the managers are trying to be proactive to make sure that their residents don't have that experience. And I think that's what we're trying to do. And that's the frustration, is that there's a time lag here. It's not like they can build these things quickly, right? And so we have to get some response pretty quickly.
The connection between the condo and the main line.
Right. And the condo associations have some complications. They may have bulk agreements with other cable providers. There's just different variables that are causing some of these issues. But individual homeowners that have Comcast right now, if they have not had the fiber installed to their house, they probably could reach out to us or reach out to Jennifer Ketchum so that we can make sure that those are scheduled and that those are done.
Okay.
And Jennifer will be here October 19th. JR confirmed that.
Okay.
And if you need to know, it's always in Friday Flash, her time when she's going to be here. And then it has her email also, so you can contact her directly.
Steve, just one thing. The Friday Flash, we only reach about 3,300 people?
A little over 3,900.
3,900?
The key to communication is getting the newsletter that you're going to receive on a monthly basis and signing up for Friday Flash. That's where a majority of your info coming from Town Hall, coming from this building, is going to be sent out. We do have a website also that we try and drive everybody back to, where a lot of stuff's going to live, but most of our residents are getting their information from a monthly newsletter or from that Friday Flash. And if you're not getting it, we have in, I believe on our website, a direct place you can click that will sign you up for it, or you can reach out to us and we'll get your email address in and we'll get you signed up.
But a resident has to sign up.
You have
It's
to give
not
us your email
automatic
address.
when you come to town and live here and put your email on your official record.
It is when you come to town. There's a form that you fill out and you
But
can choose to
You have to
receive that
choose to put your
communication.
name on it.
Now, if you moved in a long time ago and you didn't do that, we need your information. You're gonna have to come back and give us your
Right.
email address.
You have to choose to do that.
Absolutely.
Can we put something on the sign out there, like Comcast sold service will end on this date, come see us?
That's a suggestion.
Okay, can you repeat that? Comcast what?
Our sign out here, just put something up, the Comcast service is gonna end January 1st, see us.
Well, I think Jackson stated we don't really
It's not
know for
for-
sure.
for
We
everyone.
just know that their existing agreement is January 1st, and when they were here, they even said, we're not gonna just cut it off on January 1st.
Okay.
They could work another deal. Smart City may decide that they wanna offer a different cable service because Smart City has fiber lines throughout the community also. So So there's a lot of different things that could possibly happen. We don't know that they are.
To take
but-
off Jack's point, maybe you can just do Comcast questions and put something out on her next stage. You know, something as simple as that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Please.
The town hall meeting, or the town meeting, Commissioner Chaudhry.
Do you,
Well, I'm probably not the best person to talk about this, but apparently Commissioner Chaudhry is having a informal meeting here to talk about things that are happening in Osceola County. I don't know the
Commissioner
details.
Chowdhury and the sheriff.
And the sheriff at 6 o'clock.
Next Monday,
on October
Monday,
1st.
October 1st.
October
Monday,
1st.
October 1st.
And Sheriff Gibson will be here too, so
There you
please,
go.
please come. I think our last meeting we had, very poor showing.
Oh, yeah?
And JR did send a separate email out informing people that, and it'll be in Friday Flash also.
Yeah.
So the last item that I have is I was contacted today by Joe Judge. He is informing me that he will not be doing the pumpkin patch this year. I don't have a lot of details of why it will not be happening, but the pumpkin patch at this point in time has been conveyed to me that it will not be happening in town this year.
Did he submit, last I heard?
Was there an
some paperwork?
application or something? or-
I have not seen any paperwork yet for it, no.
In order to do that, which would be a temporary location like it was last year, they
Correct.
needed to do paperwork?
Right, and it's usually held at the church, and last year they approached us to do it at Lakeside Park, and we allowed that to happen. The
Right.
Pro Board allowed that to happen. I have not seen any paperwork for it this year, though.
And how, I don't know, how extensive is the paperwork? I mean, is it like
It's-
20 pages or something?
It
or
should only take a couple minutes. It's 1 or 2 pages that are
One or
filled
two
out and
pages,
turned
okay.
in. And
Simple
then-
paperwork?
Yeah, if there's ever a resident that has a problem with the paperwork, we're here to assist them with it.
Okay.
They're not that difficult. We
But you
certainly
have to
can
do the
help them.
paperwork so we know who's registered and that
Sure.
things are
We have a
handled
formal
properly.
process for anybody to utilize any of the CROA facilities. And
Right.
we want to make sure that everybody's doing that so that we can give you the level of service that is expected of us.
But the bottom line is you've received no paperwork. or
No
anything.
paperwork has been.
No
turned in.
paperwork received, therefore, no pumpkin patch.
And we can still do it if the paperwork's turned in, but I was told today that it would not be happening. So
Okay,
I wanted to
so
get that information.
they are deciding to not do it.
That's what I was told.
Okay.
yes.
That's not a CROA decision, though, just to
No,
make
no,
it
no.
It's
clear.
not a CROA decision. We still have not, we have not cut it off. We can still do it. We just need to get the paperwork and follow the process.
You are authorized to approve it from this board if you have the paperwork and things are in order.
Yes.
Okay, so that's new information.
Yep.
Anything else under management report?
We do have Todd for any facility maintenance.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Just want to go over some of these forms that were in your board report this month. Hopefully y'all were easy to find them with Rachel's help of hitting that button and taking you right to them. So you had the landscape
I
reports.
started to go there, and she told me to hit delete.
That makes the form even shorter if you delete it. So, but landscape forms, the majority of the inspections were good. These were for August, so we're kind of lagged behind. But all the items that were listed under the reports as being a 1, as not meeting scope, have since been corrected or are in the process of being corrected. One of them was, as David mentioned, Norfolk up in North Village had an infestation of mole crickets, so it doesn't look the best. Got kind of tunnels and stuff going through it, but they have since put out mole cricket bait to remedy that, so you'll see that improving. They've also been doing their mulching, so they've got that complete. The mulch looks great around the community, has the weeds at bay. They did pre-emergence beforehand, so hopefully the weeds will stay down. And also, as promised, we got the Great Lawn cleaned up, regraded, resodded, and it's reopened.
It's
So
reopened already?
It is reopened, so ahead of
So the
schedule.
sod is enough, has taken enough already?
Sod was rooted within 2 weeks.
So you had a pretty nice
Good.
weather.
Yeah, we've had great weather.
And thank you to
Yes.
Yellowstone,
Oh,
by
of
the way.
course,
Last
yeah.
meeting, you said you would really do that.
Yep, so they're starting the mowing process on it now. They'll keep lowering the height of it as Bermudas should be cut. So by Food Truck Friday up there, it's, you'll be able to romp around on the new grass.
Todd, I have one question, and guys, it might be for you guys. The sports fields out here, I know that we talked about it briefly, they were looking kind of rough. I see here we have it as meet scope.
On the sports fields?
I believe, if I'm reading it correctly.
Sports fields, the K.
They did, yes.
'Cause they-
There was
I
some
mean-
herbicide treatments that were done.
The grass looked good, but the grass was in the wrong spot. And that's what the issue
Right.
that we talked about was.
This report was done before it was reported
Okay.
that they were having issues with grass in the baseline,
Okay.
which they have since corrected.
Awesome.
They've added more clay to field 2, which is inside the fenced area of the K8. So they've gotten on it and
Cool.
corrected all those
Thank you.
things.
I want to add also, you're referring to the baseball fields, but the
Right.
rectangular fields out here, rectangular fields have a lifespan to them.
Yeah.
The Bermuda fields usually do, and these are way past their lifespan. They're school fields, so they're not necessarily all Bermuda anymore. And I can tell you, I walked them today, and they look better than they have in a long time. At this time of year, I've seen them going into November of being dust. So it's not just weed green anymore. I think that they've got a little bit more grass growth on them.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, my thing was that baseline.
Okay.
But yeah.
Sure. Yes, Jackson?
I'm looking at the irrigation inspections for Greenbrier and Trumpet.
Mhm.
Those are all ones. You didn't get any reports on irrigation?
I didn't at the time of the report, and they were lagging behind a little bit. They were inspected, but I didn't have the report, so they got a 1 and it woke them up,
And
and I
what's
get
the
the reports
status of
now.
irrigation?
Irrigation is fine. They do the inspections every other week, and we have, no issues, just heads here and there that need replaced as a routine.
So a couple of things. I'm glad to see the grading reports. I'm glad to see that when you report something as a 1, you have a, what are we doing about it, what's the resolution? These are done on a monthly basis, right?
They are, yes.
Okay, so that's very helpful. And I know, having done an informal tour that I commented to you on before the meeting, again, citing Norfolk Place, I thought, I wonder how this scored, because it doesn't look good. And I know this is a moving target, because these are live breathing organisms. And then I went back to the grade report, and it had received a 1. So I like that informal, the fact that it was consistent, but it was looking a little shaky. But, so I'm glad you see, I know we don't want to see 1s, but we know that these do happen.
Right.
And
then
glad to
I'm
see
just
this.
not sitting in
And
my
this is
office doing
nice to
them.
have this as a progress report.
Yes.
So thank you for that.
You're very welcome. Then on the other section is the monthly facility maintenance report, so do you have any questions about those?
That was new this month.
It is new, yes.
That's very
and
nice.
It has the comment section on the second page, so if there are any issues, and that way we track them on our preventive and reactive maintenance as well.
That's nice to see that, nice to see that proactively.
Are there any issues that are keeping you awake at night? And by that question, I mean, obviously you're doing is you're monitoring things, but I mean, anything where there's weird bugs or this or that, or?
Well,
I mean,
I'm glad you mentioned that. We do have termites up at the Great Lawn stage, so that keeps me up at night, because there's 2 poles holding all that up there. We had Florida Pest Control come out, and we have subterranean termite protection. Well, guess what? This is Murphy's Law kicks in. These are drywood termites, which aren't covered under the bond. So, yes. So we're in the process of getting that treated and making sure the rest of the building has no issues. Drywood termites are pretty common. They fly around. They migrate twice a year. So it just happened that we caught it during one of these inspections and saw the little tunnels. And so we'll get it taken care of, and all will be good. The building's not falling down though, so
Good.
I still lose sleep over it.
Thank you.
Okay. Did y'all have any questions for Yellowstone?
I noticed you don't have any props tonight. I remember your prop from last time. Muck, as I recall. Muck is gone. This will be a new Great Lawn.
Actually, the muck is now out on the athletic complex because we got that here.
Is that where it went?
Is that where you dumped it? No. No. Anyone have anything for Yellowstone? Anything more for Todd?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we're ready to move to action items. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Action items. Action item 1, motion to close out mediation for 2 properties that have been resolved.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Brian, second by Vaughn. Any discussion? You want a presentation by Tony?
No.
No.
We've all read our materials.
Call for action.
I'd like some explanations.
Jack wants some explanation.
Hi.
Hey, Annika, what I was looking at, you have latticed areas over there in front of some of the satellite dishes.
Correct.
I thought that they were supposed to have vines growing up.
They're supposed to have jasmine. Unfortunately, the jasmine took an unfortunate hit when somebody took the weed whacker through it. That was a while back. Then we've had it that it actually, where it is, I don't believe it's the correct plant material. It kind of grows a little bit, and then it seems to just cut off, and that's it.
Yeah.
But because it was part of the plan, and obviously it was, push forward, get to mediation, we are finding that we're going to have to roll back around and make tweaks on the plant material and obviously resubmit, just to keep the records updated.
Yeah, so maybe just some other kind of plant.
Yeah, we're going to
breaking
have
up
to
the look
to
of
find
it.
some other plant material that will go up there.
And just one other question, as you drive by on the boulevard, between some of the buildings, there's obviously satellite dishes showing through
You can
there.
see the dishes from the back. That's just
Can we-
waiting for the plant material to grow
So
up.
we got
into.
hedge material that'll
Yes,
block that?
yeah, that was
Okay.
part of the original plan that we had that would screen that.
Okay,
Yep,
that's all I've got.
okay.
Any more discussion?
Annika, I just want to thank you. You guys did a great job.
Yeah, I
with this, you and
think
your
the-
team. It was, I know, a very
Thank
long
you.
and
We
drawn-out
appreciate
effort,
it.
but
You
Yeah.
guys are,
very much appreciated.
number one, you've set a standard that I wish that some of these other condos would follow.
Thank you.
And with
Easier
some
to work
surprises
together.
along the way.
That's what it is.
No,
Oh, yeah,
there
we
were a
had
lot of
those.
surprises along the way.
Yeah, we did on that. I need to get with Susan. We have already spoken, but the retaining wall that we had, we're going to have to put some signage up there because one of my residents called me very distressed. We have some young people in North Village that find that it's okay to walk along and run along the top, but they sometimes they're on their cell phone and they just leap from one side to the next. I'm going, this is just a lawsuit waiting to happen because now it's CDD and it's us and it's, so we're going to have to put up some, none of us thought that
You
would
don't have
ever-
skateboarders trying to go along that too, do you?
I haven't seen that. That hasn't been
that would be
reported
out-
to us
now it's out
yet.
there.
Now it's on
Now
camera.
it's out there, so
There you go.
hopefully
Hey, look,
not,
look.
and I'm hoping that everyone listening.
It wasn't my
will
brilliant
believe-
suggestion, somebody else has probably already been doing it.
Yes, we will have to put some signage up there to just protect ourselves and all entities where it happens, and hopefully these kids will understand not to do it.
This is not a Ninja Warrior course.
No, please, no, no.
So thank you for all your work on that.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Do we need any discussion on the other item? Ready to vote? All in favor on closing out the mediation? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Tony, for your work on that, too. Item 2, motion to approve a one-year contract with an option to renew with Savage Creative House for Baby American Sign Language, as recommended by the Recreation Committee, moved by Debbie.
Second.
Second by Jackson. Discussion. Again, the materials describe a lot of this. Recreation Committee's approved it. Any further discussion? Let's call the question. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, motion to approve one-year contract with an option to renew with Yoga, as recommended by the Recreation Committee.
Make the motion.
Thank you, Kevin.
Second.
Second by Debbie. Sorry?
She's active.
Any discussion? Let's call the question. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 4. Kevin?
I'd like to make the motion to reconsider, change of the format.
So we're making a motion to reconsider the format of the Celebration News.
Second.
Thank you, Jackson. So this is simply a motion to bring the original motion back to the table.
And I was the reason why it ended, so I'm bringing it back.
Right, so you're bringing it back, seeing as how you voted prior time. Any discussion on the motion to reconsider?
Can I just also add that we did get attorney opinion on this, and this was the proper protocol for bringing a motion back, is someone that voted in the negative for it then can make the motion to recall.
So this is just a motion to put the original motion back on the table?
Correct.
Okay, all in favor of this one? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, now we go back to the original motion.
Which was what?
And it was back in June 27th? And was approving the outsourcing of the Celebration News to a magazine format by print to order.
So
That
moved.
Jackson has moved.
Was that the entirety of the motion?
The motion was
Yeah,
to
I just-
approve the
As
outsourcing.
far as reading it out.
Yeah.
into
So the motion
public.
is to approve the outsourcing of the Celebration News to a magazine format by print to order, which is a company. So Jackson has moved.
I'll second.
Kevin has seconded. We're into discussion. And so this was our motion back in June that did not pass, and we're now putting that back on the table to do this. We've had a lot of discussion in maybe 4 different workshops. Extensive discussion. We've looked at budgets. We looked at the community-wide survey. We've looked at discussions about what people think is best for the community, short-term and long-term. And I know that one of the discussion items, and this was a kind of a budget thing, was reducing exposure, financial exposure of CROA and our assets. So if advertising goes down, basically this is a zero cost and only is profit to us if advertising were to go down. So it's reducing exposure in an uncertain environment. I mean, that's a quick summary of some of the points that were made. We've had a lot of discussion. Do we have any more discussion here? Any? Okay. Let's call the question. So the motion again is to approve the outsourcing of the Celebration News to a magazine format by print to order. Call the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. So what this is, was the 4-3? Okay. Do we need the names recorded as the nays?
I would like a poll.
You want a poll? Okay, the nays were 3.
Debbie, Dave, your
And
name?
Brian.
I'm a nay.
Okay, so.
3.
So the motion passes. Okay, and you have the names, you're okay? Okay. So the motion passes, and just a comment on this, I know it's been very controversial, we've had some comments tonight, but this board speaks as one voice, and I expect that all of us will be behind this print to order, the magazine format, whenever it rolls out in terms of timing. I know it takes several months, but we don't always agree on things, but we walk out with one voice. So I'd just like to conclude that. So I thank the board for and the residents for all the deliberation on this issue. It looks like you were going to say something.
Well, it was discussed in detail at the September 10th budget meeting. The budget does reflect a magazine because it was a decision that had to be made to do the magazine. Or, I mean, to do the budget, we had to know where we were leaning, one way or the other.
And we can flip, we did the budgets both ways, initially.
We did the budget originally with the newspaper, and we flipped it to the
Then we
magazine.
flipped it and, yeah, okay. So, item 5A, motion to approve a change order to clear, grade, and hydro seed Lot D, which is the old golf course property, by Arnco Construction in the amount of $25,670.91.
So move.
Thank you, Jack. Need a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jackson. Discussion?
Yes, I have a question.
Please, good.
Danny, or somebody, is Arnco here?
Danny's here. Thanks.
Is this lot going to be, once it gets hydro-seeded and it grows, is it going to be strong enough to support cars? I mean, what happens with rains? Is it going to get muddy like some of these fields? What's, Danny?
That's hard to say right now. They're not adding any fill, so they will be clearing it. We walked it last week to save a few trees so it's not so bare. But I can't tell you for sure that all of it would be able to be used for parking. I'm sure some of it will be, but we don't really know until it's.
Yeah, we're talking about overflow parking, and
Right.
I just was curious if we were going to drive on it.
Can I just say one thing about the parking, though? We do have a lot up there that will support, about 100 parking spaces? Plus, we have additional parking on the north side of the road that will be parallel parking. Plus, we have about 70 parking spaces that will be perpendicular parking. So we should, along the roadway itself, so it should be plenty of roadway parking without going into that area at all.
What kind of grass is it? It's a lot drier than as you get further down into where the athletic goes.
Yes, yeah. Further down there, it is good. When it's closer to the CDD, it's pretty overgrown. There's some pockets of piles of dirt and water. It's just kind of hard to tell. right now
And
what's
I
going to
think when
happen.
you look at the reality of when our busy seasons are gonna be taking place out there, the youth soccer and youth lacrosse for the fall is usually their slower seasons. They just started, I think, this past weekend, and we're getting out of the rainy season. And then in the spring, it's not rainy season, that's when we get the most people. So by the time summer comes around, the impact on the fields are gonna be a lot less lower.
What kind of grass is that gonna be?
Bahia.
Oh,
The
Bahia.
hydro seed
Yeah.
will be behaved.
So that can actually become like a picnic area or something?
Well, it's
It
gonna
could be
definitely improve the aesthetics, because if you look at it now, it's just
It's a mess.
overgrown of
Yeah.
vegetation, so.
But we
to
could
clear
use it
out-
temporarily until we decide
yeah.
what we're gonna do with it.
Yeah,
So
we're
it's
putting
whatever.
tables out there and.
I mean,
So-
would this have like a gate, not a gate, but would you be able to rope it off and say it's for parking certain times, but it's for picnics or
Sure.
or families or whatever at other times? I mean, does it have that kind
It
of
does.
flexibility?
Yes.
There's actually 3 swales that will be going through it for drainage from the road, that will be cutouts to, you can pull into the area. So we have opportunities to split in 3 if we wanted to.
With all the other construction going on, this area's gonna be protected, so we don't have to do this again.
I'm sorry.
They're actually mobilizing now for site clearing out, so they'll do it all at the same, they'll just clear this out as their final part of the site work.
Oh, yeah.
And then the hydro seed's gonna take some time. It's a less expensive option, and it'll take time for it to grow in. The laying of sod is a lot more expensive and
Yeah.
costly, so
Yeah.
this just makes more sense to do the hydro seed.
Argentine or Pensacola?
I was gonna say, when
Argentina.
Number right there.
when Kevin and I attended the ARC.
I know a lot about grass, but I'm not
I
sure.
do not know.
Well,
Yeah.
Pensacola, you'll see it, it gets those big, high,
If it's not maintained.
seeded
Right.
things that grow, and then the Argentine is the nicer behaved.
You're
I've been through that on my property, and I had 4 acres.
gonna think it's your
You want to get the
fairway.
right stuff, or it looks like crap.
You're gonna think it's a fairway. According to Brian, he found
just-
3 of your balls there.
There's so many balls.
They were your balls.
I
I don't want to be playing out a real high rock.
No, I was just gonna say, at the meeting we had with ARC, our very first meeting, it was discussed about sodding it, and it was gonna be like $60,000 to sod
There was a
it.
lot of money.
So, Danny and several others presented us the thought of hydro seeding, which will more than adequately take care of it and cost us less than half the price.
Yeah.
And
But it's
it'll-
also, yeah, you also have to clear it before you.
Well, we're clearing it right now, but
Yeah,
now
clearing
you
it now.
just don't want dirt and then
Right,
weeds
right.
later, you just, let's
And we
grow
have the
something
luxury
on.
of time.
Yeah.
And
That's
how often
fine.
do you have to reseed this?
You don't.
You
We
don't,
won't-
once it's done, it's.
No, and so for the purpose of what we're gonna use it for, probably wouldn't recommend doing a lot of reseeding or replacing of turf. When we decide what we're gonna ultimately do with that property, then you're gonna see more of changing turf and resodding on the athletic fields and in the complex. We just want it to look nice as you come down there. I mean, this really is the last piece that completes the civic corridor. And to have it overgrown with vegetation is real eyesore. And we can have a little bit of functionality with it by doing this.
But there will be, going back to the original, one of the earlier questions, it could be locked off.
Could, I mean, it's not gonna be fenced, but we could.
No, but could see just some ropes or chains or whatever, plastic, or if you wanted to lock
With
it off.
ARC approval.
Yeah, ARC approval. But they could, if we chose to go there.
Oh,
Well, that property there is all TCC approval. Everything back there on the civic corridor, based on our sales agreement, needs TCC approval.
Right.
Call the question.
Okay, call the question. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
And before you skip over 5B, can I just make a couple comments?
Please.
We did pull it because there is muck on the athletic field complex site that we did not recognize, so this is one of those contingency items. Muck is soil that cannot sustain the construction that needs to take place out there. So we're looking at the best option to either disperse the muck on the site or to have it removed completely. And the original recommendation was to disperse it on site, but then we had some new figures come in that raised this price a little bit. So they're getting a geotech in to give us a better understanding of what the costs are, and I'll bring it back to you next month. But it has to be done. We can't not do this. We have to demuck the site.
Does delaying this till next month with a slightly, with an updated or motion, does that put things back at all? Or do we need to do
We may have to add it to a workshop
Yeah.
next month to get it approved, but
Right.
we'll make sure it's posted publicly before it's
Okay.
voted on.
Okay.
and just, there's one clarification on it. One reason it's taken a while is that the muck is under the retaining wall, but it extends 30 or 40 feet into the wetlands, and we just don't know how far into the wetlands we have to take the muck out.
So we'll wait for
Right.
further notice on this.
And so what Danny's saying, it's where the retaining wall is going to be built.
Right.
And it will not sustain in the muck.
Right.
What's our potential expense?
This one is at $9,427.
That part I got.
They gotta recalculate this, dispersing it amongst the
Oh,
rest
are we
of the
talking
property.
9 to 18 or 9 to 30?
16 was to take it off-site. And the big
15?
16 was to take it
16.
off-site. 9 was to spread it on site, but the two things that they don't know is how much is it and how much it's gonna cost to spread it. So it's just, right now it's a
Since we've
moving
got it,
target.
Since we don't have a choice, why don't we just approve it for an amount up to 16,000 and then make the best decision?
Well,
Yeah, just keep
Danny, I
going.
think it might be more than 16
It
though.
might
This
be.
is-
Up to 20 then.
It was
Approve it up to 20.
It was 25,000 to remove it, 25,600.
Oh, I thought it was 16.
My point is, if we don't have a choice, putting it off just seems kind of silly, so why don't we approve it up to 30,000 and ask Steve to come back to David as the president
That's fine.
with the last
And if
recommendation.
Sonny's listening, we do not want to spend $30,000 to demuck this property.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was a good idea.
So we can do an authorization up to a certain amount.
So somebody make a motion.
Need a motion?
I make a motion that we authorize an amount up to $30,000 with the professionals coming back to David Anderson as our president
That's
with a
fine.
recommendation, and he can come back to us if he wants to.
It's fine.
Second.
Kevin.
Go for it.
Oh, Kevin, you got it.
Kevin got it.
All right.
Any
If I
further
want that,
discussion?
but, yeah.
So it's the motion as it's as it's stated, except we're changing it up to $30,000.
Let me
The
just-
rationale is to demuck the athletic field complex site.
Yeah, that's fine.
And the source of funding is specified as capital improvement reserve.
With the professionals coming back. to
With the
David
professionals coming back
Anderson
to
with
Steve.
your final recommendation.
Yeah, I will make sure the geotech recommendation, and then our owner's rep, Danny, who we've hired to look out for our best interests, and our engineer, Mark, give their recommendations.
That'll make it more expeditious, and I'll sign off on behalf of the board.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Call the question.
Oh, that's right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
And
Thank
I-
you.
Just to add one thing, I do have a brick. And I have 2 plaques on the dugouts because I raised my hand to volunteer too quickly. And I was in the first photo. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you,
There's
Danny.
actually a lot more that he's not telling you.
Thank you, Danny. Item 6, motion to upgrade key scan access control system to latest version Aurora with CJS Communications in the amount of $24,936.54. Need a motion?
So CROA
Thank you.
replacement reserve.
Say that again?
Replacement.
From CROA replacement reserve expenditure.
Okay. Vaughn.
Vaughn is making the
second.
motion, and Jack seconds. And I know I've asked a bunch of questions. There was good documentation and then further documentation with some back and forth with Susan and the rest of the board, just further information and clarify. So, discussion?
So this system is sophisticated. Having not seen the dog park recommendation, but if they came back and said the way they were going to police the dog park was through keys, only you could get in with certain scans or something, is this the type of technology that we would use and everything like that, and that type of sophistication and everything?
Yes, Keyscan is pretty sophisticated. Unfortunately, we have the older operating system. We need to upgrade to the next level operating system. No different than XP and several
That's what this
versions.
is, the upgraded
It's
operating
the
system.
upgrade, and we need to, they no longer support the current version. So, when things happen, when we need to do certain things, that's a paid support, and we need to get out of that. So any changes that you want to do at the dog park, we can, kind of work through that and use the system to the best of its ability, but we can't do that right now.
So basically, we either spend the $24,936.54, or we spend it through having that amount and do service calls all the time and have to do this eventually anyway.
Or find another system.
That's why I said, go Mac, forget Microsoft.
Well, and let me remind you too that we budgeted in CJC to add some more systems and data security.
Is this the system that's in place in Artisan Park Club?
Yes.
And does it have to be replaced?
it has to be upgraded.
Upgraded.
Yes.
I don't see it listed when you're talking about the recommendation. I see Heritage Hall, Jones Room, and North Village Commons.
So let me explain that those are add-ons.
Okay.
Currently, those are just meeting rooms that do not have.
So you'll add them in those locations and upgrade
Correct, and
everywhere
upgrade
else.
the whole town.
And when you do the upgrade, for example, at Artisan Park, is there an on-site upgrade that has to be done to a computer system there?
Not a computer system, but the panel itself that is in the back room that communicates.
So this fee will include that work?
Correct.
So they will be able to use the same system there. Your CROA ID card will continue to work at Artisan Park for the pool and the clubhouse as it does currently?
That is correct.
Okay, thanks.
So the implication for residents is that they need to do nothing with their cards,
Correct.
nothing new.
Nothing new. Resident won't even notice that anything's happening.
And so when we heard the dog park piece, just to get that clarified, the dog park piece, if they want to right now, if they activate the registration, they fill out the paperwork, pay their $10 to get that process. Is that correct, what they're doing now? And if there's some incident that happens and someone needs to be deactivated from their dog park privileges alone, not their pool privileges, that can happen with this new system?
Correct. It can happen at any moment. It can happen now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they don't need to have a second card. I know Dory said something about a second card.
Right. I know there were conversations about second cards and what they're essentially bringing to the table is having a second card so that it can automatically cut off at a dog's vaccination expiration date. And there would be an extra charge, and we can raise the fees on the cards. I'm not 100% behind that.
Okay.
I think it would cause some undue stress to residents to have to carry around two cards.
They grab the wrong card.
Right, or grab the wrong card.
It happens.
We can definitely use the system for what it's worth and come up with policies and procedures to get past that.
So
But
this is pretty top flight.
correct. Osceola County Schools uses it. We have some high-rise buildings downtown that use it. There are some prisons that use it, not to compare Celebration to one.
That's what we need, a celebration.
No, we can break out of prison.
Call the vote, call it.
I have one other quick question. The reserve study came in 2016, and it projected $15,000 to do this. So here we are 2 years later, and it's substantially more. I think it's worth noting that for the next reserve study, that this technology is more expensive than we're allocating. It's more sophisticated, I guess, right? Is that the reason
Right.
we're getting this? Because this is a pretty big miss for such a short time window.
Although we are adding 3 sites, 3
Right.
locations, how
Is
much
that-
does that,
okay.
if we did not add those, what would the cost be, ballpark? Rather than 25, is it like $1,000 a site? Is it $3,000 a site, ballpark? Because it might have been a hit.
Yeah, right.
It was pretty accurate with our reserve study, the cost to upgrade our facilities.
So it is about 3,000 a site.
So we were pretty on target. Actually, it was 17,000. So it was 2,000 off.
So when we start thinking about things like the new ball fields, are we looking at an additional 3,000 per field per facility? So 3 for each field, 3 for the concession stand, 3 for,
I don't think you need 3 for the fields,
No,
just
then-
1.
Right, we don't even have a key scan system going into the ball field complex. It'll be staffed and we'll open and close the gates. So there's no key scan. And especially if we're gonna take county dollars, we can't have it be CROA access only. But we will have to include the new ball fields in the methodology of developing the new reserve study. And Susan's emailed them that already. I think today I read that email that we have some dog park amenities in the new ball fields that we'll be looking at.
okay, thank you.
So Patrick, just for Monday, so we'll be able, if we had to do a cutoff at the dog park, you could just do the ID at that location?
Yeah, you can do it here in the office.
No, I meant if you had to deactivate them for the dog
You
park
could-
area.
Yeah, you can do
deactivate the
that
dog
here
park
from the
only.
office, and
Thank
it's
you.
takes
That's very
seconds.
helpful.
Patrick, one more quick question, just to not get confused here. If Artisan Park wants to be able to do their own cards down there, does this 24,000 solve that, or do they still need to pay for this extra server to be able to do that?
Based off the policy that we were going back and forth with Artisan on, they would be able to get access to the system using the web portal.
So
which
there's a
is
web
included.
portal included in this now too, so it keeps
Correct.
them from having to buy a piece of hardware. They can go into the
Right.
cloud-based system. Great.
Thank you.
Good. Any further discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Patrick. Good research, and thanks for addressing at least my 10 questions. Item 7, motion to approve the 2017 CJC audit as prepared by Glickstein, Laval, and Karas, as approved by the CJC
Second.
in August 2018. That was Vaughn and Jack.
No, it was Brian.
I'm sorry, Brian and
Yeah.
Jack. I wasn't looking, I was reading. Brian and Jack's the second. Discussion.
Call the question.
Call the question. Thank you, Jack. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve the engagement of Glickstein, Laval, and Karas for the 2018 CJC audit is approved by CJC August 2018, the amount of $3,000 CJC operating expenditure.
So move.
Thank you, Jack.
Second?
Thank you, Debbie. Debbie's the second. Discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Item 9 has been removed. Item 10, motion to approve the engagement of Glickstein, Laval, and Cares for the 2018 CROA audit in the amount of $17,500 from the CROA operating expenditure.
So move.
Motion from Jack. Second from Vaughn.
I would make it for an amount up to 17,500, and I would still
Okay.
authorize me to speak to them as we had discussed the other day.
Okay, so the motion is.
Amended as stated.
You're okay with amended? Vaughn, you're okay with the second?
Yes.
Thank you. So it's the amount up to 17.5. Discussion. Thank you for that clarification. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 11, motion to approve the roof repairs by Performance Roofing in the amount of $2,350
So moved.
to 1,600.
And a second.
Oh, and it's divided among different areas. And we have a motion from Vaughn and
No,
second.
from Brian.
From Brian. Can I read? From,
Put your glasses
get get the glasses that I don't have. So it's from Brian, and then Jack is the second. Discussion on that. Okay, call the question. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve the replacement of 4 concrete platters, St. Augustine cast stone and architectural precast, the amount of $3,146.88. CROA replacement reserve expenditure. Motion from
Vaughn.
Vaughn. Second from
A second.
Kevin.
Is this, we only got the one bid on this? Is that a normal,
It's less than $5,000.
doesn't matter, I guess?
Yeah,
I think they only got one bid.
There is only one bid because this is the only company that I could find that produced this planter that resembled closely what's there now, that went through ARC and was unanimously approved, or anonymously, whichever one that would be. So, yes, one bid.
Well, I think the significance of the one bid is the way that the management contract's written.
No, I
can completely
understand. No, I understand.
your-
I just want to say what
No,
I did.
I tried.
So I understand that's the only one you could get it from, and that's why we did it.
I've been searching for 2 years to get this done, so.
Thank you.
Is there any issue with the ARC approval?
No, they were fine with it.
Just timing?
Yes,
Okay.
they were great, and we'll recommend these to the CDD as well, because they have a like-kind set at East Lawn and Tohi. So if there's ever need to be replaced, hopefully they can match what we have.
Any more discussion? Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Todd. Item 13, motion to ratify the decision by Artisan Park Service Area Committee, September 5, 2018 meeting to approve the expenditure of up to but not exceeding $5,000 for a new kegerator tap system behind the bar from the reserve fund.
I got a question for you.
We need a motion. Jack's moving.
Yeah.
Second from?
Second.
From Jackson.
Brian seconded it.
Oh, Brian, sorry, Brian.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, what I'm looking at is the background items indicate a $3,500 acoustical study as well, and a $2,500 expenditure for the Arson Branch newsletter.
Those
Does
items
this
are
go
not
away?
in front of us tonight.
Okay,
The
so-
newsletter is probably not going to happen, is
Okay.
my understanding.
That's fine, I just was
Yeah.
looking at the background.
The acoustical study is something that they're trying to do, and literally go out and get a company to actually measure the acoustics, but I don't think they're ready for that. So I think the only item in front of us tonight was the kegerator.
Okay, that's fine, I'm done.
Any further discussion?
Do we know if it's the one that pours the beer from the bottom of the cup or pours it directly? Have you seen these?
Those
now?
are cool.
They're really
Those are
neat.
cool.
Sorry, I had to ask.
Yeah.
We need a site,
they're
we'll need a
more
site,
than
we'll need a
this.
site visit, don't we?
I wanted an espresso machine. Lost.
We, call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 14, motion to approve to initiate the finding process for 38 non-compliance items.
21 now.
I'm sorry, 21, thank you.
Modified.
Through notification of the Covenants Committee meeting to confirm or reject the fine.
So moved.
Motion from Jack, and I didn't see who said the second.
I was going to move, but I'll second, and I'm seconding the revised update.
Okay,
I think that was the motion, too.
yeah, so it's 21, initiating the finding process. Any discussion?
I have a question on property 28. Just the last item? I just never seen that on there, so I didn't know if that was.
Shutter dog.
Shutter
Shutter
dog.
dog.
Dogs, it's the hardware for shutters.
Oh, it's not.
It's not about
It's not an
dogs?
actual dog. Thanks, yeah.
Shutter dog's not
Anytime.
dog.
I had a feeling that's what it was.
Thanks, Tony.
Any further discussion? That's a good catch.
Is that like a comfort dog?
It's a service-
They are
it's a
allowed in the
service
building,
dog.
yes. Shutter dogs are allowed in the building.
Okay.
Call the question. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. It looks like we've removed item 15, so we'll go to the last item. Item 16, motion to approve fee waiver request number 1, the amount of $29.95 from a homeowner, and deny request number 2.
So move.
Thank you, Jack.
Second.
Thank you, Brian. Discussion.
It's right here.
Those were fairly,
It's right
those
here.
were very clear. Thank you.
This one here is the
Thank you for the management recommendations in there.
9. It's not in the last 5 years.
Any discussion? Any more discussion?
That's 15.
No, this is 16. That's 16.
I'm sorry.
Any more discussion on that?
No, I just had a question on 15, but go ahead. No discussion. Ready to vote.
Okay. Call the question. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Board comments.
It says it right here.
So
Jackson.
on 15, it's been paid, and that's why it was removed. So there's no need to.
On the new
You
agenda.
said you had a question about 15. It was removed because it was paid by. the
Okay,
homeowner.
I was just looking on the Dropbox. Okay.
Jackson.
As I expressed to the board in executive session today, it's come to our attention that there are challenges faced in some of the condo boards with their elections coming up in the upcoming year. We as CROA have no actual hard power to do anything about how a condo elects its members or when they have elections. So I'm not asking that we are able to take any specific action, but I do think it's important to say to the community that this board, I think, has really made an effort to be transparent, to be open. People may not agree with the decisions we make. I understand we're already being pillared on the back porch. But we have made an honest effort to make sure that there's the opportunity for elections, and if people disagree, they can vote. But in some condo boards, voting is not happening because they can't get a quorum. And in order to help make that happen, electronic voting may be an option. In talking to Steve and Susan, they've suggested an education seminar in which we could provide some support for how you implement electronic voting. And I think this would be a wonderful thing that we could do to help create an environment in which all of the CROA residents, whether they're in condos or not, have the opportunity to participate in the life of their community and in the governance of their particular communities. So I want to just encourage that to happen and to ask that we continue to stay on top of this and to encourage all of our condo boards to do everything they can to create free, open elections.
Jackson, I'd like to add on to that. The problem that we're seeing with a lot of the condo docs, it requires at least a 51%, if not more, to vote in favor of doing such things. And I think probably a more comprehensive review of their condo docs, such like we did with our own docs 2009, where we created a threshold and a quorum type system, would be a good addition for them as well, because rarely can you get enough people to create a quorum and have a legal annual meeting or even do anything. So I would say that besides doing the electronic voting, which is going to require a majority to do it, there's a lot of other documentation that could be changed to facilitate better management of the condos.
Other board comments? Right?
Just want to remind the meeting on Monday with Commissioner Chowdhury and Sheriff Gibson. Any security concerns, any officers, any questions? I know we had a lot of people participating in the CDD meeting, but please show up again, because the county has the pockets in the budget, and we'd really like to see a good.
This is really a good chance to get hold of the sheriff and say, you need more support here.
Yeah, it really is.
Particularly following up on a lot of the turmoil with the local sheriff, Jerry. I'm glad to see that that's renewed, for at least for the next year. Kevin, any comments anymore? Debbie, other comments? Vaughn?
No, I just think, talking about safety, the sheriff or the CCDD budget does not include the extra money for the special details that they would bring in extra deputies to handle. And so that was not included in the budget. So that's going to hopefully come up maybe in the next few months, where maybe they can put that back in. But right now, there's not going to be any money put towards that. All they funded, I think, was they did refund Deputy Weiland's position here. It's just that the special detail money is not going to be there anymore. I think that was something like $60,000 to pay to bring extra deputies in to work certain areas here for certain types of issues that come up in celebration.
Well, that was especially on Friday and Saturday nights. It's rather significant.
And Halloween too, because I've reached out to them and they said that that's part of it. So we will be contacting on our own the sheriff's office for looking at what that additional listing is.
So just a comment and a reflection, at the 6-month mark where we are, just a comment that this board, you mentioned transparency, this board has been very, very engaged. It's been aggressive, meeting at least 3 times a month, 2 or 3 public meetings, the monthly board meeting, 2 board workshops with an agenda, which I'll hold this up for the camera. This will be posted publicly tomorrow, is Thursday, for the community to see. That's just next Monday, and then future agenda items for the rest of this fall. We are busy, and that doesn't include all the liaison work.
The executive sessions with the
Plus
attorney on legal
executive
issues.
sessions, which we have to do when we have the attorney involved. So I'm just very appreciative of the board and the aggressive work we're doing. A lot of our work isn't noticed by the community, but I think the results are noticed. We see the quality with landscaping. We see the events growing. And again, it's the hard work of the committees that go. So much happens behind the scenes. And yes, we do get criticized, but I think we speak with one voice. Individuals are doing individual work. Kudos to Brian for for really bringing our budget in line, and then the background work of our management folks, Steve, Susan, JR, Todd, Susanna, Tony, Rachel,
Patrick.
and Patrick behind the camera. So that's who's here. So I just wanted to comment, thank you. We're halfway through our term as this board. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Debbie. Second? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
I think you're only 40 minutes over.
No beer, no beer from
Good job.
Look, guys, if you guys would like to go to the tavern and
On an empty stomach.
on an empty stomach, and on
Not a
one,
safe idea.